So lately, I've been in the market for a new job. I've made many videos on my channel, kind of discussing why I'm looking for a new job. There's been some recent developments just with my company and my position recently, which has bought me a little bit more time in regards to searching for a job. But overall, it's not a company that I want to be at forever. And I have been applying and looking at other jobs and even other career fields. But one thing that I feel like a lot of people can relate to when it comes to looking for a new job is not necessarily knowing what questions to ask in the interview, right? And I think a lot of people would argue that the questions that you have at the end of the interview are just as important, if not more important, than the answers you have to the questions during the interview. And it can be easy to Google things and try and figure out, good questions to ask. But then when you actually get into the thick of it and you're in the interview, it can be difficult to remember those questions and again, ask the right questions. Because while you can have questions lined up, sometimes the conversation doesn't necessarily go directly as you'd like. So you kind of have to pivot and adjust. But the point of this video is I want to focus on 5 questions that you should ask on an interview to really help you stand out, but also get an idea if this is even a good fit for you. Real quick, sort of a side note before I jump into these 5 questions, I want to talk about something that you can do to help you stand out when it comes to asking your questions. Now, as I mentioned before, you can have questions lined up, and a lot of the times it is good to be prepared in that sense. But something you can do to really stand out in an interview is asking follow-up questions based on the answers that the person interviewing you gives you. So let's say you ask one question and they give you an answer to that question. As soon as they're done with that answer, you can say, that's great. That actually brings up another question now that you mention that, or something along the lines of, to follow up on your answer there, what happens if this, or what does this look like? When you ask these follow-up questions to the answers they're providing you, it shows that you're engaged in the conversation and you're actually listening. And it shows that you don't just have questions memorized to ask to make it seem like you know what you're talking about and then moving on to another question that's totally unrelated to the one you just asked. Now, it's okay to ask questions that aren't directly related, right? There's many different things you can ask questions about, whether it's the position, the company, the culture, many different things. However, when you ask follow-up questions on the questions you're already asking and on the answers they're providing you for those questions, again, it shows that you're genuinely interested and you're engaged in the conversation and you're actively listening to what they're saying. That's a fantastic way to stand out and set yourself aside when it comes to interviewing. So without further ado, aside from that little side note, I want to jump right into this. Let's talk about the 5 questions to ask on an interview. Number 1, is there anything about my resume that leads you to believe that I may not be the best fit for the job? And if so, I'd love to address it. This is really going to help you stand out because number 1, it's going to point out your weaknesses right away. And it allows you to address those. But furthermore, it shows that you're not afraid of a little bit of, I can't think of the exact word, I don't want to say issues or problems, but maybe, controversy or adversity. That's the word I'm thinking of. A little bit of adversity, right? It shows that maybe you're not perfect, but you're willing to address that and talk about how your strengths outweigh that, how you can improve on that, or explain something that maybe isn't clear to them. Maybe there's a gap in your resume, or maybe you don't have the exact experience that they're looking for, but you can talk about other experience that you had that helps you in that specific sector, whether it's working with people, communication, again, experience or knowledge, education, anything like that. It allows you to address their concerns directly. So that's one thing. Number 2, a great thing to ask is this. Let's say I get hired. What would you need me to do within the next 365 days to make you think, wow, this was a fantastic hire? So what is this doing right now? Number 1, it's setting a game plan for yourself. It sets expectations. It lets you know what you need to do realistically to set yourself apart and be a really good hire for them. But it also helps them visualize you in the role, right? You're forcing them to envision you a year from now being a really successful hire. So you're almost, for lack of a better term, you're almost manipulating it, manipulating the situation and forcing them to think of you there a year from now. And it also lets them know that you're thinking about long-term things, right? They know now you're not going to be a quick 3 to 6 month hire, just to make some money while you're searching for something better. They're visualizing you there long term, and you're setting yourself apart in the sense that you want to be there long term. So that's another great question to ask. What do I need to do in the next 365 days to make you think, wow, that was a great hire? That's a fantastic question to ask. Number three, what does the day to day look like? Now, this is a very common one, and chances are you probably would ask this. However, I still think there's a lot of value to this question. And what it does is it gives you a realistic expectation of what the job looks like. We've all been in a situation where, the job description just doesn't necessarily outline the actual day-to-day responsibilities. It talks about the bigger picture and the bigger things that you're going to go ahead and do. But on a day-to-day, what does my morning look like? What does my afternoon look like? What are my priorities? What do I need to get done on a weekly basis? It gives you a better understanding of what it is you're going to be doing. And if you're not comfortable with that, maybe this isn't the best position for you. Maybe it's not the best fit. At the end of the day, you're also interviewing them. You want to make sure that this is going to be a good fit for you, at least for the foreseeable future. It may not be forever. But again, you don't want to be doing something that you're miserable. And if the day-to-day responsibilities and day-to-day activities are going to make you miserable, I wouldn't really recommend doing that unless you really need some work for now, just while you're searching for something else. So definitely keep that in mind too. Number four is, what is the direction of the company? Where are things headed based on overall strategy? What this does is it helps show that you're thinking bigger than just your position. It shows that you're thinking about how you can make an impact on a deeper level before you've even gotten the position. And you can kind of piggyback on top of that and say, like, what are the company's biggest goals right now? And how does this position directly assist the company with achieving those overall goals? Again, you're setting yourself apart by thinking long term and thinking bigger than your position, right? You may be coming in at the bottom level, an entry level position, but the fact that you're even concerned or interested in the company's overall goals and the overall direction, that shows that you are going or plan on going above and beyond. It helps set you apart. All these questions are meant to help set you apart or get a better understanding of the company, the position, and if this is going to be a good fit. The fifth and final question to go ahead and ask on an interview to kind of help set yourself apart from other people, is this, and you can frame it this way. Tell them that you don't like to waste, your time or theirs while you're interviewing. And you can tell them this, say, when I'm interviewing for a job, while of course you're interviewing me, I feel like I'm also interviewing the company, and I want to make sure it's a good fit, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't want to waste your time or my time. Now, with all that being said, I am looking to grow. I want to grow in my career and move up. Is there room to grow, and what does that path look like? Framing that question this way, rather than just saying, is there room to grow? They hear that question on every single interview. But when you mention the fact that you don't want to waste your time, you don't want to waste their time, you value your time and your resources. And with that being said, you want to make sure that this is going to be a good fit long term and you have the opportunity to grow. Again, you're setting yourself aside by making them think, okay, this person is interested in staying on long term, right? They value their time. They want to make sure it's a good fit. They're willing to admit the fact that they interview companies the same way companies interview them. It sets yourself aside. It just shows you go above and beyond, and you're more of a logical thinker rather than just saying, is there room to grow? They hear that question on every single interview. By framing it this way and saying, I don't want to waste your time or mine, you're setting yourself apart. And it's a great way to do that. So that's it. Those are the 5 questions that I think, help set you apart on an interview. Again, you can kind of tweak these a little bit depending on what industry you're in and things of that nature. But I think these questions, I did a little bit of research on this too to try and find questions that I felt like could set you apart and certain ways to frame it. And this is kind of what I came up with. But let me know what you guys think down below. Like, are there any other questions that you feel like you can ask on an interview that really set you apart? Because I think while the answers are important, I think phrasing the answers, or excuse me, the questions is really important too. And that's a good way to set yourself apart. But let me know what other questions you guys think we should be asking in interviews down below to help set yourself apart. But that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. If you're new here, I post every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and then on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern time, I post all kinds of content about like personal finance, my life experiences, really just shit I feel like you guys can relate to and help you out. And I throw it over some gameplay. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys. I appreciate you as always. If you like this kind of content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.